The night air in Los Angeles buzzed with the sounds of distant sirens and the low hum of conversation spilling from bars lining Sunset Boulevard. Inside his car, Liam Clark adjusted the rearview mirror, glancing at the empty back seat, a momentary pause in his usual rhythm. He had learned to appreciate these quiet moments, but tonight felt different. Something lingered in the air, a tension that made his heart quicken. The ping of his Uber app broke the stillness, and he quickly pulled over, heart racing with anticipation. As the passenger approached, he could see her silhouetted against the neon glow of a nearby sign. Emma was a stranger, yet her tear-streaked face struck him instantly. The way she hesitated at the door, her hands trembling, told him everything he needed to know. "Hey, are you okay?" Liam asked gently as she slid into the back seat, careful not to intrude on her space. I'm fine," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper, the words heavy with unspoken grief. He offered her a soft smile, trying to bridge the gap between them. "You don't have to be fine with me. I'm just a driver, but if you want to talk, I'm here." Emma's eyes darted away, scanning the city lights outside, but he could see the raw pain beneath her bravado. "I lost my job today," she finally admitted, her voice cracking. "And my boyfriend left me." Liam's heart sank. It was a familiar story, the kind that echoed through the back seat of his car more often than he liked. "I'm really sorry to hear that. It sounds like a lot to handle. Just remember, sometimes tough times are the beginning of something better." Her gaze met his in the mirror, and for a fleeting moment, he saw the glimmer of hope mixed with despair. "You really think so?" "I know so," he replied, wishing he could do more than just drive her through her pain. "Life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it." As they navigated through the city streets, the silence was punctuated by the occasional sniffle, but Liam felt a connection forming. He didn't know what tomorrow held for Emma, but he wanted her to know she wasn't alone. When he finally pulled up to her destination, he turned to face her fully. "You're stronger than you think, Emma. Hang in there." She nodded, her eyes brimming again, but this time with gratitude. "Thank you for listening. I really needed that." He waved her off with a smile, not expecting anything in return, feeling only the warmth of human connection as she stepped out into the night. But as the week wore on, the memory of that ride lingered in the back of Liam's mind. He returned to his routine, picking up new passengers, sharing bits of kindness, yet always wondering what had become of the woman who had touched him so deeply. Then one ordinary afternoon, an unexpected package arrived at his door. Before we dive deeper into this journey of kindness and transformation, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Your support is vital in helping us share these heartfelt stories of compassion and connection, inspiring others to make a difference in their lives and communities. So please, hit that subscribe button now. The night air in Los Angeles buzzed with the sounds of distant sirens and the low hum of conversation spilling from bars lining Sunset Boulevard. Inside his car, Liam Clark adjusted the rearview mirror, glancing at the empty back seat, a momentary pause in his usual rhythm. He had learned to appreciate these quiet moments, but tonight felt different. Something lingered in the air, a tension that made his heart quicken. The ping of his Uber app broke the stillness, and he quickly pulled over, heart racing with anticipation. As the passenger approached, he could see her silhouetted against the neon glow of a nearby sign. Emma was a stranger, yet her tear-streaked face struck him instantly. The way she hesitated at the door, her hands trembling, told him everything he needed to know. "Hey, are you okay?" Liam asked gently as she slid into the back seat, careful not to intrude on her space. I'm fine," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper, the words heavy with unspoken grief. He offered her a soft smile, trying to bridge the gap between them. "You don't have to be fine with me. I'm just a driver, but if you want to talk, I'm here." Emma's eyes darted away, scanning the city lights outside, but he could see the raw pain beneath her bravado. "I lost my job today," she finally admitted, her voice cracking. "And my boyfriend left me." Liam's heart sank. It was a familiar story, the kind that echoed through the back seat of his car more often than he liked. "I'm really sorry to hear that. It sounds like a lot to handle. Just remember, sometimes tough times are the beginning of something better." Her gaze met his in the mirror, and for a fleeting moment, he saw the glimmer of hope mixed with despair. "You really think so?" "I know so," he replied, wishing he could do more than just drive her through her pain. Life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. As they navigated through the city streets, the silence was punctuated by the occasional sniffle, but Liam felt a connection forming. He didn't know what tomorrow held for Emma, but he wanted her to know she wasn't alone. When he finally pulled up to her destination, he turned to face her fully. "You're stronger than you think, Emma. Hang in there." She nodded, her eyes brimming again, but this time with gratitude. "Thank you for listening. I really needed that." He waved her off with a smile, not expecting anything in return, feeling only the warmth of human connection as she stepped out into the night. But as the week wore on, the memory of that ride lingered in the back of Liam's mind. He returned to his routine, picking up new passengers, sharing bits of kindness, yet always wondering what had become of the woman who had touched him so deeply. Each day brought the familiar faces of his usual riders, many of whom shared their own stories of heartbreak and hope. Yet he found himself searching for Emma's face among the throngs of people, a nameless worry gnawing at him. Then one ordinary afternoon, an unexpected package arrived at his door. The box was large, wrapped in brown paper, and bore no return address. Curiosity mingled with apprehension as he set it on the kitchen table, the scent of freshly printed paper wafting through the air. He hesitated, recalling the connection they had forged in that brief, tumultuous ride. Liam tore open the package, revealing an ornate thank you card nestled atop a pile of crisp documents. His breath caught as he unfolded it, reading the heartfelt letter from Emma. She wrote about her recent inheritance, a fortune she never expected, and how his kindness had given her the strength to face her struggles. But what gripped him most was the check tucked inside, a staggering amount that could change his life forever. His fingers trembled as he held it, an overwhelming mix of disbelief and gratitude flooding through him. This wasn't just a gift, it was a lifeline. With the weight of his family's struggles pressing on his shoulders, he envisioned the possibilities: debts cleared, a better life for his younger siblings, and perhaps even pursuing his dream of starting a community car service for families in need. He paused, contemplating the implications of her generosity. This was more than a financial windfall. It was an opportunity to pay forward the kindness that had been bestowed upon him, to make a real difference in the world around him. Liam felt the stirrings of purpose ignite within him, a calling to create something meaningful from this unexpected turn of fate. As he set the letter down, a smile crept across his face. The city felt different now, imbued with promise and potential. He could already imagine the logo for Liam's Lift, a beacon of hope for those who needed it most. Emma's act of kindness had sparked a flame within him, and he was determined to let it burn brightly. In that moment, Liam knew he wasn't just a driver. He was a catalyst for change, ready to turn a single act of compassion into a movement that could ripple through their community. Liam stared at the check in disbelief, his heart racing as he tried to process the enormity of what lay before him. $52,000. He could barely wrap his mind around it. The weight of his family's financial struggles pressed hard against his chest. His younger siblings depended on him, and the thought of being able to help them, truly help them, was intoxicating. But within that thrill lurked a gnawing uncertainty. What did Emma expect from him? He picked up the letter again, tracing the elegant script with his fingers. Emma had poured her heart into those words, sharing how her encounter with him had shifted her perspective during one of the darkest days of her life. She had felt invisible, drowning in the weight of her losses, but then in his car, he had offered her a glimpse of hope. Liam's mind raced back to that moment, the way her face had transformed when he had offered her encouragement. He had merely been doing what felt right, yet here he was, on the verge of a life-altering decision because of a simple act of compassion. But what did that mean for him now? He could easily slip into dreams of luxury, new clothes, a car that didn't rattle when it hit a bump, but those thoughts fell hollow against the backdrop of his reality. He couldn't forget why he drove for Uber in the first place: to support his family, to give them a better life. His thoughts churned as he paced the small kitchen, glancing at the faded family pictures on the wall. His siblings, bright-eyed and full of potential, needed stability. They needed someone to guide them, to show them that life was filled with the kind of compassion he had shared with Emma. Then it struck him. The check wasn't just a gift, it was a call to action. Emma had inherited a fortune, yes, but she had also inherited a new outlook on life, a life that she wanted to share with him. The realization anchored him, crystallizing his purpose. It wasn't just about using the money for his own upliftment, it was about using it to uplift others. He envisioned a community car service, one that could serve low-income families who struggled with transportation. Liam's Lift, he mused aloud, the name rolling off his tongue like a promise. A service that could help single parents get their kids to school, elderly neighbors attend medical appointments, or families reach their jobs without the stress of unreliable public transit. But that dream came with its own set of challenges. How would he establish it? Where would he find the resources? The stakes were high. This wasn't just about changing his life, it was about changing lives in his community. The very thought thrilled and terrified him. Before he could second-guess himself, Liam grabbed a pen and paper, jotting down a plan. He would start small, perhaps a pilot program to test the waters. He could reach out to local non-profit organizations, see if they could partner with him. Maybe he could even recruit other Uber drivers who shared his vision. The excitement surged within him, pushing aside his hesitation. As he mapped out his ideas, he felt a sense of clarity washing over him. This wasn't merely about financial success, it was about creating a ripple effect of kindness, just as Emma's gesture had done for him. By turning his gratitude into action, he could honor her gift and, in turn, inspire others to embrace their own moments of compassion. He paused, looking around his modest apartment, a small sanctuary against the sprawling chaos of Los Angeles. This was where he had faced his own demons, where he had fought to keep his family afloat. And now, perhaps, it would also be the birthplace of a movement. With renewed purpose, Liam took a deep breath and picked up his phone to call his siblings, ready to share his vision with them. "Hey guys," he began, his voice steady. "I've got something important to discuss." As he spoke, he could almost feel the weight of their struggles lifting, knowing that soon, they might be part of something bigger than themselves. The call with his siblings was more than just a conversation. It was the first step on a journey that would transform not only his life but the lives of so many others. A week had passed since Emma had stepped out of his car, but now he could feel her presence guiding him. He was ready to embrace the challenge ahead, knowing that his small act of kindness had the power to create a wave of change. Liam sat at his kitchen table, the check from Emma still clutched tightly in his hand, feeling the weight of its potential like a stone. The sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the small space that felt both like home and a prison. The walls bore witness to his struggles, adorned with photographs of his siblings, their beaming smiles now juxtaposed against the shadows of financial anxiety and uncertainty that hovered over them. He had spent the past week grappling with the enormity of Emma's gift. Initially, the excitement of starting Liam's Lift had been intoxicating, but uncertainty now gnawed at him. What if he failed? What if his vision never materialized? The stakes were rising, and with them, the pressure to act. He pushed his chair back, the sound slicing through the stillness of the apartment. It was time to get serious. He couldn't let this opportunity slip away, he had to move. His fingers danced over the keys of his laptop, searching for local non-profit organizations that might be interested in partnering with him. He was determined to bridge the gap between his dreams and reality. As he combed through the listings, his phone buzzed on the table. It was a text from his sister, Jess. "Mom's been asking about the bills again. Can we talk?" A knot tightened in his stomach. He had promised to take care of things, but the weight of their financial struggles pressed heavier every day. His mother's worries seeped into their conversations like smoke, and the thought of her facing another sleepless night over unpaid bills filled him with dread. Liam took a deep breath, steeling himself. He had to face this head-on. He called Jess, the phone ringing twice before she picked up. "Hey," she said, her voice strained. "Hey. I just got a big opportunity," he replied, trying to keep his tone upbeat. "I think I can start something that'll help us." "What do you mean?" "I want to create a community car service, something that helps families who can't afford reliable transportation. It could really change things for us." Silence hung in the air, and he could practically hear her processing the idea. "That's ambitious, Liam. But how are you going to fund it? We can't even keep the lights on." The pressure rose again, sharper this time. "I have a way. I received some money, and I want to invest it into this service." "Are you sure that's a good idea? What if it doesn't work?" A wave of frustration washed over him. "I can't keep living like this, Jess. I can't keep watching Mom struggle. I want to give us a fighting chance." "Just be careful," she cautioned. "We can't afford to lose what little we have." Her words echoed in his mind. What if this risk cost them everything? He felt the weight of their dependence on him settle like an anchor in his chest. After they hung up, he stared at the check again, the $50,000 shimmering with promise yet also looming like a specter of failure. The urgency was palpable. He had to act fast. He couldn't let fear paralyze him. He needed a plan, and he needed it now. He began drafting a proposal for local nonprofits, outlining how Liam's Lift could provide affordable transportation for families in need. As he typed, the hours slipped away, but he was fueled by a sense of purpose. Each word felt like a step toward liberation, a way to claw back control from the suffocating grip of financial strain. But as he prepared to send the proposal, another message buzzed on his phone. It was a notification from the Uber app. A surge in requests was happening across town, and the rates were higher than usual. He hesitated, the conflict brewing inside him. On one hand, he could take the opportunity to earn extra money. On the other, the thought of working through the night felt like a betrayal to his vision. He could drive for hours, but what would that mean for his dream? Just then, a wave of urgency crashed over him. If he didn't act on this surge, he might miss out on the funds he desperately needed to kickstart his project. With a heavy heart, he made a decision. He would drive tonight, but he would also use that time to network, to share his vision with whoever got into his car. Liam's lift would not just be a dream, it would be a conversation starter. He grabbed his keys, heart racing with the uncertainty of his choice. He slid into the driver's seat, the familiar hum of the engine grounding him, but as he pulled into traffic, he felt the weight of his decision settle in. With each passenger, he would gauge their interest, share his vision of a community service, and hopefully recruit like-minded souls who believed in the same cause. The stakes had never felt higher. Every person who entered his car could be a potential ally or a source of inspiration. As he merged onto the freeway, the city lights twinkled like stars, illuminating the path ahead. Tonight, he wouldn't just drive. He would sow the seeds of his dream and hope they sprouted into something powerful. The pressure was on, but with every mile, he felt the flicker of possibility ignite within him. He was no longer just an Uber driver. He was a man on a mission, ready to turn hope into action, and he wouldn't stop until he had created something meaningful, not just for himself but for everyone who needed a lift. Liam's hands tightened around the steering wheel as he navigated the bustling streets of Los Angeles. The surge pricing notification on his Uber app was a beacon of hope, a chance to earn the funds he desperately needed to launch Liam's lift. But as he drove, a new sense of urgency coursed through him, pushing him to transform each ride into a stepping stone toward his dream. With every passenger who slid into the back seat, he seized the opportunity to share his vision. "Hi there. Thanks for riding with me. I'm actually working on starting a community car service called Liam's Lift. It's geared towards helping families in need. What do you think?" he asked, his voice a mix of enthusiasm and nervousness. Most responses were polite nods or brief encouragements, but occasionally, he struck gold. One woman, a single mother with a toddler in tow, lit up at the mention of his idea. "That's amazing. I can't tell you how hard it is to manage without a car. If you can make this happen, it would change lives," she said, her eyes sparkling with hope. That interaction sparked a flame within him, reigniting the determination that had flickered earlier in the week. With each kind word and shared story, he felt the weight of his dream solidifying into something tangible. He could see a path forward, not just for himself, but for the community that had welcomed him as a driver. Yet, time was slipping through his fingers like sand in an hourglass. The clock ticked down to the end of the night, and he needed to present a solid proposal by the end of the week if he hoped to garner support from local organizations. The pressure mounted as he dropped off each passenger, his mind racing with ideas and potential connections. But as the night wore on, doubt began to creep back in. What if he failed? What if he couldn't rally enough support? The thought of disappointing his family loomed large in his mind, a constant reminder of the stakes he was facing. Just as he parked to drop off a particularly enthusiastic passenger who had pledged to spread the word about Liam's lift, his phone buzzed with a text from Jess. "Mom's getting stressed again. We need to talk about bills." The urgency of her words sent a chill down his spine. He couldn't let his family down. He needed to act quickly. The countdown had begun. "You're gonna be okay," he mumbled to himself, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "Just keep going." As he drove toward his next pickup, a thought crystallized in his mind. If he could present a solid plan to local nonprofits and secure their backing, he could provide a structure for his initiative, a lifeline for families like his. But first, he needed a compelling pitch. He took a deep breath, determination surging through him. He had to craft a narrative that would resonate, something that would compel others to join him in this mission. As the night deepened, he began to imagine the launch event for Liam's Lift, envisioning a gathering of community members, families, and potential partners rallying around a shared cause. He could see the flyers, the social media posts, and the local news coverage that might follow. He could feel the momentum building, a wave of collective support ready to push him forward. But time was tight. He needed to finish his proposal by tomorrow to have a shot at presenting it at the community meeting scheduled for Friday. The pressure intensified, and the clock was ticking down. With each stop, he began jotting down key points for his proposal on a notepad resting on the passenger seat. He could feel the urgency driving him now, a fire ignited within him to make this happen, to ensure that Liam's lift wasn't just a dream but a reality that could transform lives. As he pulled into the next pickup location, he glanced out at the sprawling city, its lights twinkling like stars. He was ready to confront the challenges ahead, to turn uncertainty into action. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the families that needed a lift, about creating a ripple effect of kindness in a city that often felt indifferent. Liam took a deep breath, steeling himself. The moment of truth was approaching, and he was determined to seize it. The countdown had begun, and he could feel the weight of the world on his shoulders, but he was ready to rise to the challenge. The next ride could change everything. The sun dipped below the skyline, casting long shadows across the bustling streets of Los Angeles. Liam gripped the steering wheel as he navigated through evening traffic, his heart racing in sync with the rhythm of the city. Each passenger who entered his car brought with them a flicker of hope, a promise of potential connections that could help launch Liam's lift. But beneath the surface excitement lurked an impending deadline, one that threatened to suffocate his dreams if he didn't act quickly. Tonight was pivotal. He had a community meeting scheduled for tomorrow, and if he didn't present a compelling proposal, all of his efforts might amount to nothing. As he dropped off yet another passenger, he caught sight of his reflection in the rearview mirror, tired eyes, a furrowed brow. It was time to confront the weight of his aspirations head-on. He pulled over at a nearby park, the evening air thick with the scent of blooming jasmine. He sat there, parked under a flickering streetlight, and rummaged through his notes. The proposal needed something more, a personal touch that highlighted not just the mission but the motivation behind it. He could feel the clock ticking, the urgency clawing at him. Just then, his phone buzzed again. Jess. Mom's really worried, Liam. We can't keep ignoring the bills. Can you come over? The weight of her words settled like a lead blanket on his chest. He knew she was right. His family was counting on him, and yet here he was, pouring himself into a dream while their reality hung in the balance. He could choose to go to them, to offer the reassurance they needed, but doing so meant abandoning the momentum he'd built toward his vision. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. I can't keep doing this, he muttered to himself, the conflict raging inside him. Was he chasing an ideal while neglecting the responsibilities he had to his family? With a clenched jaw, he texted back, "I'll be there soon." But as he pulled back into traffic, a wave of doubt washed over him. Could he really balance both? If he chose to finalize the proposal tonight, what would that mean for his family? They needed him, but he also needed to follow through on his goals. As he approached his family's apartment, the familiar sight of their building filled him with both warmth and trepidation. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension. His mother sat at the kitchen table, poring over bills, her brow knitted with worry. Jess glanced up as Liam entered, her expression a mix of relief and concern. "Hey, I'm glad you're here," she said, her voice softening. "We really need to talk about the rent." Liam felt the lump in his throat grow larger. "I know. I'm trying to figure something out." His mother looked up, her tired eyes scanning his face for answers. "Are you okay? You've been so distracted lately." The words hung in the air, heavy with expectation. He could feel the weight of their hopes pressing down on him, and in that moment, he was struck by the realization that he had a choice to make, a choice that would define not just his future but the lives of those he loved. "Mom, I'm working on something that could change everything," he said, a surge of determination flooding through him. "I want to start a community car service to help families who struggle with transportation. I believe it can really make a difference." Jess's eyes widened. "That sounds great, but how will you manage it? We can't afford for you to fail." "I know," Liam replied, the urgency returning. "But this is my chance to do something bigger than myself. I need to make this work." His mother's gaze softened, but the worry remained. What if it doesn't work out? What if you lose everything? The question pierced through him, a stark reminder of the stakes at hand. "Then I'll figure it out," he said, his voice steady. "But I can't let fear hold me back. Not anymore." As the conversation continued, the tension in the room shifted. His family needed his support just as much as he needed to pursue his dream. It was a delicate balance, one that required sacrifice on his part. He couldn't afford to neglect them, but he also couldn't bury his aspirations. That night, as he lay in bed, he felt the weight of his decision settle over him like a heavy quilt. He would present his proposal tomorrow, but he would also be there for his family. It wouldn't be easy, and the path would be fraught with challenges. There would be days when the weight of their expectations and his dreams would threaten to crush him, but for the first time, he felt the flicker of hope, the possibility that he could carve out a space for both. The next morning, he awoke with renewed determination. He would show up for his family, but he would also chase his dream. The impact of his choices would resonate far beyond his own life. In that moment, Liam understood that the sacrifices he made today would lay the foundation for a brighter tomorrow, for himself and for the families that needed a lift. The sun was just beginning to rise over Los Angeles, casting a warm golden hue across the city as Liam prepared to present his proposal for Liam's lift. His heart raced with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Today was the day he would share his vision with the community, the culmination of sleepless nights spent crafting and refining his ideas. But as he stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie, a wave of realization washed over him. This wasn't just about starting a car service, it was about something far deeper. As he made his way to the community center, the weight of his family's struggles hung heavy on his shoulders. Each bill, each worried glance from his mother, and each moment of uncertainty fueled his determination. But it wasn't until he arrived at the gathering, surrounded by familiar faces from his past rides and new supporters, that the truth began to crystallize. Liam stood before the small audience, his proposal neatly laid out in front of him. He began to speak, passion threading through his words. Yet, as he described his vision of a service that would provide transportation for struggling families, something shifted within him. He recalled Emma, the woman whose tears had sparked this journey, and how her moment of vulnerability had resonated with him. Then, as he shared the story of his own family's sacrifices, it hit him like a bolt of lightning. The very act of kindness that had ignited his dream was not just about helping others, it was about healing himself. He realized that in striving to uplift others, he was also lifting the weight of his own burdens. Liam's lift isn't just a service, he proclaimed, his voice steady now. It's a reflection of our shared humanity. It's about recognizing that we're all in this together. Every ride we offer is a chance to connect, to support, and to remind each other that we are not alone. With each word, he felt the layers of his own struggles peeling away. The fears he had clung to, the fear of failure, of letting his family down, began to dissolve into a sense of freedom. He wasn't just a driver or a brother, he was a conduit for compassion, creating a ripple effect that extended far beyond himself. As he concluded his presentation, the room erupted into applause, but it was the realization of his own worth that struck him most profoundly. Liam's lift was never solely about cars or transportation, it was about fostering community, building connections, and healing hearts, his own included. In that moment, surrounded by those who believed in him, Liam understood that his journey was intertwined with every life he hoped to touch. The act of kindness that had once felt like a fleeting moment had transformed into a purpose that could change not just his life, but the lives of countless others. It was a truth that had always been there, waiting for him to embrace it. To lift others was to lift himself, and in doing so, he would pave the way for a brighter future for them all. The community meeting had come to a close, and as Liam stepped outside into the warm Los Angeles evening, the city pulsed around him, alive with possibility. The applause still echoed in his ears, a rhythmic reminder of the support he had garnered. He had shared not just a proposal for Liam's lift, but a piece of his heart, intertwining his journey with those of the families he aimed to serve. As he crossed the parking lot, his mind replayed the smiles of the attendees, their nods of understanding and encouragement. It was as if he had ignited a spark, kindling a shared vision of hope and connection. The weight he had carried for so long began to lift, replaced by a profound sense of purpose. He reached his car, the familiar scent of worn leather enveloping him. Sliding into the driver's seat, he felt lighter, as if a burden had been shared among the community he now belonged to. He started the engine, the soft hum resonating like a heartbeat, and began to drive home. The streets were filled with the glow of streetlights, illuminating the path ahead, but it was the faces of the families he had met along the way that filled his thoughts. He envisioned the rides he would offer, the conversations that would unfold, and how each journey could lead to connection and compassion. When he finally arrived at his apartment, he found Jess waiting for him. Her eyes lit up as he walked in, and without a word, he pulled her into a tight embrace. They stood there for a moment, the warmth of family grounding him. "I did it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I shared my dream." "Liam, that's amazing," she exclaimed, the joy in her voice washing over him like a balm. I think we're going to be okay," he replied, a smile breaking through the remnants of doubt. In that moment, he recognized the truth he had uncovered. The path to healing and hope was paved not just by the dreams he chased, but by the connections he nurtured. Each act of kindness, each shared ride, had the potential to create ripples of change, not only in the lives of others but in his own. As he settled onto the couch, the weight of his aspirations transformed into a warm glow of responsibility and purpose. He was ready to embrace the challenges ahead, knowing that he would not walk this path alone. Together with his family and community, he would lift others and in doing so, elevate himself. And in that shared journey, he understood that the true essence of kindness was not simply about giving, it was about growing together.